Okay, fantastic. This looks like it is working. Fantastic. So this is Advent of Code 2020, and I'm going to be doing the each day's challenge every day through December. Maybe not Christmas, but definitely get a majority of these done. If you've never heard of Advent of Code before, it is essentially a website where every day of December, from the 1st up to the 25th, a new programming challenge is put out. And so today we've got a new programming challenge, this day one here, and we're going to try and solve it. And as the days goes on, it tends to get a little bit harder and a little bit harder. Normally around about day 10, I lose the will to live and get very confused, and that's about where we get to. But we'll see. We'll see how we get on. We'll see how we do. I'm sure we'll be okay. So without further ado, we're going to begin. I'm using for this a website called repl.it, or repl.it as I like to call it. This is an online Python, or basically an online code editor that you can write your code in. I'm choosing to program in Python, but the programming concepts will stand regardless of what language you're using. So let's crack straight on into day one. So I've got day one here. Let's have a look and see what the challenge is. So day one, report repair. Okay. After saving Christmas 5 years in a row, that's how long Advent of Code's been going for. So it started in 2015. You've decided to take a Christmas vacation. You've decided to take a vacation at a nice resort on a tropical island. Surely Christmas will go on without you. The tropical island has its own currency and is entirely cash only. This is my worst nightmare. Cash only. What are you thinking? Contactless or nothing. The gold. Anyway, we'll get over that. The gold coins used there have a little picture of a starfish. The locals just call them stars. None of the currency exchanges seem to have heard of them, but somehow you'll need to find 50 of these coins by the time you arrive so you can pay the deposit on your room. So every year you need to find 50 stars. To save your vacation, you need to get all 50 stars by December the 25th. Now, 25 challenges, 50 stars, that goes into it quite nicely. Let's see how this works. Collect stars by solving puzzles. 2 puzzles will be made available on each day in the Advent calendar. The second puzzle is unlocked when you complete the first. Each puzzle grants 1 star. So we've got 50 stars and we can earn 2 stars each day. Before you leave, the elves in accounting just need to fix your expense report, which is our puzzle input. Now you only get a puzzle input if you're logged in. You can see here up here it says Mr. Johnson Computing. I am logged in. You would need to create an account. Now you can make an account through GitHub or Google, which I'd really recommend doing. So just use one of those accounts to log into it and tie it to that account just so that you don't forget your details, and just makes things a bit streamlined. But you can make your account however you want to. Apparently, something isn't quite adding up in this expense report. Okay. Specifically, they need you to find the 2 entries that sum to 2020 and then multiply those 2 numbers together. So, for example, suppose your expense report contained the following. So we've got these 6 numbers. In this list, the 2 entries that sum to 2020 are 1721, so this first one here, and I select everything. This first one here, and 299, so this 4th one in the list. Multiplying them together produces 514579. So the correct answer is 514579. So we want to find the 2 numbers that add up to 2020, and then we want to multiply those 2 numbers together, and we want to give the answer. And when we get the answer, when our program outputs it, we're going to put it in this box here. So, of course, your expense report is much larger. Find the 2 entries that sum to 2020. What do you get if you multiply them together? And if you've never done Advent of Code before, let's have a quick look at our puzzle input. Bosh. And you can see there, that is a lot of numbers. Okay. It would be impractical to try and find out which one adds up to 2020 by just going through manually. And that is why we like to use a Python, where you like to program in Python or program in any language. So what we're going to do is we're not going to worry about this huge list of numbers. Okay, we've got this lovely test data that they provided. Oh, this is fantastic. So what we're going to do is we're going to write our program with just these 6 values. And when it gives us this answer, then we know that it's working. Okay, so we can test it and make sure it's working. And then, and only then, will we think about using all this. Oh my goodness, so many numbers. Okay, let's copy a lot of this into our Python document. So we want to specifically they need to find the two entries at sums 2020 and then multiply those two numbers together. Okay, so let's jump into REPL.it. I'm just going to add this as a comment, and I'm also going to grab our list here, our little test data, because that will be absolutely lovely. So we are going to, I'm just going to call it data, and we're going to make an array. And this is just going to be a list of all of our different numbers here. So in an array, we're just going to separate these with a comma. And so I'm going to say data equals, and then we've just got a list of numbers. Now, it's very important to remember that when we're working with arrays, the first thing in the list is at position 0. So that 1721 at the start here, that is at position 0. Okay, and then 979 is at position 1, 366 is position 2, position 3, position 4, position 5. So we've got 6 elements in this array, but it goes up to position 5 because the first one starts at 0. It's important to remember. Okay, so we've got our data. Now what we need to do is we need to look at each one of these and see and add it to all the others. I've explained that really badly. So let's start with 1721. Okay, we need to start with this, and we need to try 979, and then we need to try 1721 add 366, and then we need to try 1721 add 299, and we need to try 1721 add 675, and we're constantly testing to see whether these equal 2020. Now, let's change this to, let's store 2020 as our target, okay? I really like, in Advent of Code, to store things like this in variables rather than hard code them, because typically in stage 2, once we've solved this one, they will then be like, oh, and now do this, the target's changed or something. And so it's really nice to just be able to go, well, bam, and change it there once, and it's all gravy. So what we need to do is we need to loop through our array. So I'm going to say for I in range, and we're going to find the length of data, okay? So we want to count upwards from 0 all the way up to length of data. And so we want to go, length of data is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we want to go from 0 up to 6, okay? And that's length of data, that's going to work out 6, okay? And every time this loop goes round, I is going to get 1 bigger. So it's going to start at 0, then it's going to go to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then when it gets to 6, which is the length of this array, it will be too big then, and so it will stop. Okay, it's a bit weird because we got up to 5, but the length is 6. Hopefully that starts to make sense. It took me a while when I started programming to really get that. So what we're going to do is we're just going to print out. We're just going to make sure this works. Print. We're going to say data, whatever's in data at position I. Okay, so let's run that and see what we got. So Advent of Code day 1. And then it's printed out each element at a time. And actually, what would be nicer is maybe if I print out I and then data. So let's print that out so we can see 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I is counting up, and then we've got each position of the array there. Okay, lovely. So we've got the first thing in the array, but now I need to take that 1721 and I need to add it to 979, and I need to add it to 366, then I need to add it to 299, then I need to add it to 675. Then I need to add it to 1456. Now, if 1721 does not add with any of these numbers to make 2020, then what I need to do is I need to move on to 979, and I need to add it to 1721, to 366, to 299, to 675, and to 1456. I need to keep adding these to see whether actually it turns out that, I don't know, 675 and 1456 are the ones that actually add up to our target. They don't, but it could be. We don't know what position they're going to be at. And so we need to check all of these. So as well as just going through and looking at these individually, we need to add in a second loop down here. So we're going to say for, let's change I. The I is not great in this example. Oh, maybe it is. Maybe it is. For I, let's say something like test number equals naming variables is a dark art. Okay, we're going to say test number equals data I. Okay, so we've printed out data I down here, and we know that we're going through and we're looking at each one in turn. Now what we're going to do is when we've got each of those numbers, so when we've got 1721, we're then going to add it, try adding it to the others. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change 1721 and put it right at the end of the array, because I don't want the test to pass straight away. I want it to make sure it's working in the worst case scenario, which is maybe if we put this at the end, 299, because I know that them two added together will be the correct answer. So I'm just going to do that so that the test doesn't just pass and I just programmed it badly. This will make me program it well. So I'm going to say for J, because we did I, so now we're going to J. Bit of a programming convention, probably not the most helpful, but hey ho. And we're going to go in len for data again. Now this is really sloppy and we can optimize this. This is by no means the best way, especially for a large data set, but we're going to keep it simple for now and then we'll look at optimizing. So now what we want to do is we want to pull out our number from data. So if we were at I equals 0, we're going to have 979 as our test number. Okay. Now we want to add it to 366. So actually, we don't want to start at position 0 for J. We want to start at position 1. So we're going to say for I in range between 1 and length of data. If we don't give this first option, if we only give one number, such as the length of data, then it's just going to give us, it's just going to go from 0 upward. It's going to assume we want 0. If I put a number there, it's going to say, oh, okay, you want to start from 1 instead. So we're going to start from 1, and we're going to have our, let's say, our, oh goodness, this is bad practice, other number, that's awful. I'm thinking on my feet here, and it's not good. It's not good. So J starts at 1, I starts at 0. So our test number in the first iteration of this loop for I in range is going to be 979. Okay, so that's what test number will be. And then we're going to go into this loop here for J. Okay, and our other number is going to be data J, and J starts at 1. So J is going to be this position here. Data J is going to be 366. And we're going to check to see if test number, oh goodness, so bad, plus other number is equal, double equal sign to show that they're equal to each other. Test number add other number is equal to, no, no, okay, I'm not happy with that. Let's do, I'm loath to do number 1 and number 2. Let's keep it at that for now. If test number add other number is equal to target, then what we're going to do is we're going to print our test number multiplied by our other number. So you can see here, we need to find the two entries that sum to 2020, and then we need to multiply those two numbers together. So that's what we're looking for. Once we've found out that they are equal to our target number, we're then going to print out their sum. So, sorry, their products. We're going to multiply them. And we're going to use this word called break. And this will break out of this loop here. And then I guess we should really have a Boolean up here. Maybe we'll call it found equals false. Python is a capital F on false, or place false. And in this second for loop, we're going to say if found, then we're going to break. So you can here say if found equals true, but you don't have to. You can take a shortcut and you can literally just say if found, because found will either equal true or false. And so if false, well then it's false. If true, well it's true. So we're going to print test number. We're going to say found equals true, and we're going to break. Okay. Big reveal. Let's see if this does anything helpful. Gosh, look at that. It is found 514579, and our answer is 514579. So that is fantastic. We've got a loop here. So this first loop is going through, and we are taking one number, and then the second loop is going through all of the numbers, starting from the number after it, and it is looking to see if these numbers added to our first number that we've got is makes our target, which is 2020. Now, actually, test number, I'm going to change this to first number, and I'm going to take that, and I'm going to copy all instances of test number. I'm not happy with that variable name. I'm also going to change other number to, let's say, seconds number. This is just, it's gone from bad to slightly better. Okay, so we've got a loop here that is going to go round, and it's going to execute 6 times. Okay, and then we've got another loop here that's going to go round, and that's going to execute 5 times because it's starting from 1. So it's going to start here, and it's going to go, and it's going to go, and it's going to go, it's going to go. And so this is going to execute 5 times, this code here. And then we're going to come back down to the bottom here and back up here. And then this is going to increase by 1. And then we're going to come back down to this loop, and it's going to execute another 5 times. So actually, we've got a loop inside a loop here. And that means that when this executes 5 times, this then comes back round and runs again. And so this executes another 5 times. And so it keeps going round and round and round and round and round. And if I was to print, let's do a little test and just show what's going on under the hood. Let's say print first number, and we're going to print out second number. And you should see when I hit run that we get 979366. So that's number 1 and number 2. Then we get 979 and 675. So number 1 and number 3. 979, 1456. So this one here, and this one here. And you can see the pattern here. It's sticking with this one as the first number, but the second number is slowly going through this list. And then we get to 1721, 979, 1721, and then I increases by 1. So we now start here, 366. Now, I don't think within the rules we actually can add the number to itself. So that's a bit sloppy. We don't need to be doing that. And so really, instead of starting at 1, we should really be starting at I plus 1. Okay, so when I is 0, 979, we want to start at 1. But when I is 1, we want to start at 2. And when I is 2, we want to start at 3. And when I is 3, we want to start, and that means we actually don't want I to ever get to the length here. We don't want I to get all the way up here. We actually want it to get 1 less. So we're going to do len data minus 1. Just a little bit of optimization there. It will make sense if you had a really big data set there. So I'm going to just comment out this print line, so I don't need it, and hit run, and I've got this. Okay, but that isn't our answer. This is just the test number, and we actually need to do it on all of these numbers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to whack these in a file. So a quick Control-A to select everything, Control-C to copy it, and we're going to jump into Replit, and I'm going to add a new file here, and I'm going to call it day1data.txt. Okay, that's a very simple text file, and Control-V to paste that in. You can see here we've got 200 numbers here. Okay, that's a lot of numbers to go through and add, but our program is going to handle it like an absolute champion. Now you can see each number is on a different line, and so we can use this when we're reading our file to pull in these elements and separate them. So we're going to create a little function that will read our file. So let's come up here and just define our read file. And we're going to ask it for a file name. And we're going to say with open, and whatever our file name is, that's what we're going to open. I'm going to open it in read mode. With open file name read mode as file, we're going to say file.read. And we need to attach that to a variable. So I'm going to say something like data equals file.read. Now, this is going to give me a big string, and I don't really want it as a string. What I want it as is a nice list. So what I want to do next is I want to say data equals data.split. And I'm going to split it every time there's a new line. And we can say new line by using \n in Python. So I'm going to say data equals data.split. And this is going to go through our big string, because when it reads it in, it's not going to read it on lovely new lines. It's going to read it as one big string like this, but it will have \n to show that there's a new line there. And so our file actually looks something like this, but with 200 numbers rather than 2. But so what we want to do is when Python's looking through that string, every time it finds a \n, we want it to chop these numbers that are surrounding it and put them as individual elements in an array. And that's what the split function will do for us. So let's have a look. So read file data equals data.split \n, and then we're going to return data. Okay, lovely. So instead of saying this test data here, let's just change this to test data. We're going to say that data is equal to read file, and we're going to give it the name of our file, so day1data.txt. And we will be given a list of all the numbers that were in that file. And just to check that we are being given that, we're going to say print data. And that should work. Let's just comment this out for a second. So, oh, it's not like that. It's not like that at all, is it? There we go. So let's just make sure that's working. No, didn't like that. No file or directory day1data.txt. That is because I'm in the folder 2020, and so I need to tell it that it's in 2020/day1data.txt. Let's see if that works. Boom, and look at that. We have this lovely array with 200 different strings of those numbers all in this lovely list, thanks to this little function here that we wrote. So we called this read file, could have called this anything, called this file name, could have called this anything, but they're descriptive, they tell us what they do, and we're opening that file name, we're reading the data, we're splitting that string into individual elements, and then we're just putting them in a list, and then we're returning that list to wherever we use this function. So we use this function here, so we return that list here, and so data is now this lovely long list of numbers. Okay, fantastic. So we've got our data, we know it's working. One thing we do need to bear in mind is that this data here, these are all strings, whereas we were testing this with actual integers. And so what we need to do is we need to factor that into our code up here. So I'm just going to uncomment this, so control/, there we go. And I'm going to say first number equals integer of data I. So we're going to say int data I. We're going to say second number equals integer of data j. And then it looks like we're gravy. So we're gravy? Looks like we're good. So if we hit run, boom, 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 boom. Okay, fantastic. 471019. So that's 471,019. And that could well be our number. So let's print out a bit more information here. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to print out our first number. Actually, let's do a little bit of fancy printing. So, okay. So if I have a string, I could say something like first number, colon, and I'm going to use curly brackets like that, okay? And then I might just do a \n, put it on a new line, and then I'm going to say second number, and I'm going to put curly brackets again. And I'm going to say dot format, okay? And in the brackets there, I can tell it what variables it should put inside these curly brackets. The dot format thing is super handy, because otherwise I'd have to have loads of pluses and concatenating everything. It's an absolute nightmare. It's good to learn because string concatenation is a useful thing, but format saves you so much time once you're okay with string concatenation. So first number, second number, we're formatting it. What we're putting in? Well, we're putting in first number and we're putting in second number. So first number will go into these curly brackets here because it is the first thing I've put in the brackets here. And then this is the second thing, so we'll go in the second set of curly brackets. And now all I'm going to simply do is I'm going to print out this whole line. So print open brackets, close brackets at the end there, and this will format this nicely. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say something like product, and then a comma. So there are so many different ways you can use this print function. So this second one, I'm putting a comma between the things that I want to print out. And what that comma will do is basically just put a space between whatever's here in this first section and whatever's here in this second section. Also, it doesn't matter with the comma whether this is an integer or a string, which is really nice. You don't have to cast it. You don't have to do like str around it. You can just leave it like that. And it's like, yeah, cool. Whereas if you're trying to concatenate, it then starts having a bit of a hissy fit. So let's hit run. We can see here that our first number is 1751 and our second number is 269. And that's given us the product of 471019. And if I just 269, if I copy that, oh, hello. No, didn't mean to do that. Okay. I did not copy that. 1751 times, actually I can do it in the console here. 1751 times 269. Actually, I thought we were in Python. That's embarrassing. Okay, let's ignore that. Let's just assume that the math is good. I know one way to check it. We could actually put this into the answer box. So 471019. Let's put this into the answer box. 471019. Did I get that right? 471019. Yes, I did. Fantastic. This is maybe the best bit of Advent of Code, because like hitting the submit button and it comes up and says you got it wrong is like the most frustrating thing ever. But when you get that gold star, you just want to run down the street and shout about it and just here we go, submit. Oh, I'm a clever person. Look at that. We're one gold star closer to saving our vacation. That is fantastic. But the story doesn't end there, because we're going to continue to part 2. So let's see what happens in part 2. Okay, so the first half of this puzzle is complete. It provides 1 gold star. Hooray for us. Part 2. The elves in accounting are thankful for your help. One of them even offers you a starfish coin they had left over from a past vacation. They offer you a second one. Okay, so that was who gave us the first one, I guess. The elves in accounting are thankful for your help. One of them okay, yeah, cool. A popular vacation spot, I guess, if the elves have been there too. They offer you a second one if you can find 3 numbers in your expense report that meet the same criteria. Using the above example again, the 3 entries that sum to 2020 are 979, 366, and 675. Multiplying them together produces the answer of 241,861,950. In your expense report, what is the product of the 3 entries that sum to 2020? Although it hasn't changed, you can still get your puzzle input here. So it's the same input, but this time we're looking for 3 numbers. Okay. So, to do 2 numbers, so this logic here, this is the logic, right? Actually, what should we put this in a function? Yeah, let's put this in a function. Let's define a function and call it part 1. And we're just going to scoop everything in here over by hitting tab, bosh, and now that's inside our function called part 1 here. And then what we'll do is we'll write a new function called part 2, and so things won't get too confusing. And then if I want to, I've got my first solution, I won't corrupt this, I'll keep this here. But I'm going to copy this, I'm going to paste it down here, and we are going to just hide this one up here by pressing this little minus sign. Hide that. Lovely. So we're going to call this part 2, and this is going to be slightly different. Okay, so let's take our found and our target, actually. Let's take found, and we're just going to pop it inside here, and we're going to pop it inside here, just so that they don't conflict with each other. Okay, lovely. And then what we'll do is when we want to run them, we'll just say part 1, and we will pass in target and data, and we'll tell part 1 to expect target, and we'll tell it to expect data. We're going to tell part 2 to do the same, data. And we're going to run part 1, then we're going to run part 2, and we're going to give that our target and our data. Lovely. Okay, so how are we going to change part 2? Well, in this one here, we're going through every element in this array. So we've got our test data here. So we're going through and we're checking it. Now, we're just checking this number with this number, and then we're checking this number with this number. But what we need to be doing is checking this number with this number and this number. So we need another loop. We need the loop. We must go deeper. So I, J, you'll never guess what's coming up next. Let's copy this line. And let's do, is this clever? This is not clever. Oh, I've programmed this in such a dumb way. Have I? Yeah, probably. Let's get rid of this loop. Let's see if we can do it with one loop. I think we can. Egg on my face. Let's do second number equals int of data I, but guess what? We want that I to add 1 to it. Yeah? So when I is 0, data I is going to get 979. When I is 0, data I plus 1, well, that's going to be 1. So data 1 will be this one here, because our array starts at position 0. And then our third number, I can't believe I programmed the other one with 2 loops. What an absolute doofus. Still worked. If it's stupid and it works, it's not stupid. I mean, that's programming 101. Third number equals data I plus, you guessed it, 2. So what we need to do now is we need to say for I in range, length of data minus 2, because we don't want to get in a position where I is 299. I plus 1 would be 1721, and then I plus 2, it would be like error, and then that would be it, game over. Python would crash, and it would be a bad day. So we're going to restrict this by minusing 2 from the length. So I only goes up to 4. So 0, 1, 2, 3. Never gets larger than, never gets to 4, because once it gets to 4, the loop will stop. So we've got our first number, our second number, and our third number. Let's get rid of this print line. We don't need this anymore, because we're actually printing them out nicely down there. Okay, this if can come back here. And we don't actually need this found variable now, because we can just break out of the loop. Oh, I can't believe I made part 1 so complicated. I'm so sorry. This is so much nicer. Look at this. This is lovely. Look, oh, we've got a loop here, loop through the array up to the second to last element, or third to last. Third to last. Is the phrase first to last a thing? It's the first, that would just be the last, right? Third to last element, so minus 2, that would be the third to the last. Yeah, I've hurt myself in confusion, but I think so. So that's what that does. We're then going to get the 3 consecutive numbers from position I onwards. So if I is 2, we're going to get this one here, so 0, 1, 2, and then we can get the 3 consecutive numbers. So this will be the first one, this will be the second one, this will be the third number. So we get those numbers, and then we're just going to check to see whether they add up to the target. And so we're going to take if first number, add second number, add third number. Can't believe how much simpler this is. And this is why we call it development, because you're always developing and getting better. So if first number, add second number, add third number is equal to the target. Our target is passed into this function, and we define it up here as 2020. If they are equal to target, then what we're going to do is we're going to just add a little bit to this when we print it out, make it nice, make a lovely job of it. So we're going to make this third number, and we're going to add to this to say third number. Okay, this is a bit of a line and a half. This line 46 actually spans 3 lines because I've written it so big, but that's okay. And then we're going to print out the product, and the product is the first number times the second number times the third number. That was it, right? I didn't even copy the next thing. What is the product of the 3 entries? Yeah, absolutely. So let's just cut that out, actually, and let's just say product equals first number times second number times third number, and then we're just going to print product is equal to product. So we're just printing out it nicely. This is the product. Found does not need to be true because that doesn't exist anymore. Now this keyword break, I didn't really explain it when I used it in part 1 and the atrocity that was part 1. But break will essentially just allow us to stop the loop. So if this is true, we're like, yeah, stop. You don't need to stop checking. No, seriously, like you don't need to keep going. Just stop. You're done. And it will just exit the for loop. So that's all break does. It's quite nice because you can optimize your code rather than it just like keep churning on even though it's done what it needed to do. So part 1, part 2. Oh, I put data 0 there. That's syntax error if I saw one. Let's get rid of this. Don't need that line there. Okay, fantastic. So let's run this with our test data first. Now this is the nice thing about having passing these in. So I can just change this to test data so that when it runs the function part 2, it comes down here, it passes target to target and test data to data. And if I wanted this to be data instead, let's rename this to, I don't know, puzzle data. Okay, so I could pass puzzle data in, like here, to this one, and this would then translate into that, and so then it would use that whenever data is referred to in this function, it's using whatever was passed in, which was puzzle data. But for part 2, I'm passing in test data just to make sure it works. So let's check that it works. Let's hit run. And there's a fail. What have I forgotten to do? Name, part 1 is not defined. Okay, great. So I've defined these 2 fantastic functions, but I'm trying to use them before I've defined them, and that's causing all sorts of issues. You'll notice when I made this read file function, I really cleverly put it right at the top, because that's kind of, kind of important, because you need to tell it what the things are before you try and use the things. Hopefully hopefully I didn't come across as patronizing when I said that. Okay, so let's put that in there. So now that's kind of splurged that in there. I can also just close these up now. So let's close those up. Lovely stuff. Okay, so I've got my little print advent of code day 1 here. That's just to tell me I'm in the right file. This is what I need to be doing, my challenge. Got my test data. So this is my program. Look how simple my program is. It might be on line like 44, but it's my program nonetheless. So I've got some puzzle data, which gets me to read a file. I've got a variable called target, and I'm just like, yeah, do part 1. Here's the target. Here's the puzzle data. Yeah, do part 2. Here's the target. Here's the test data. So let's run this and see what we get. Okay, the printing out on this second one, I've missed an N, I think. So let's go here, /3. Yeah, I want /n third. Thank you very much. Let's try that again. Okay, lovely. So here we can see 979, 366, 675, and we get that whopping great number. And I believe that was saying 979, 366, 979, 366, and 675. Yeah. So it is working for our test data. So now what we're going to do is we're going to unleash the actual puzzle data. So we're going to update this variable in here and call it puzzle data, and we're going to pass that into our function rather than our test data. So let's have a look and see what we get. Okay. Okay. Didn't run the second bit. Why not? Why didn't it run the second bit? Let's just comment out this part 1. Okay. Oh no! But it was just working with test data. What have I done? Part 2, test data. Print if first number add second number add third number is equal to target. This is where it all goes wrong, and I've actually completely and utterly goofed up. Oh, do you know what? You do need the loop. You do need the loop. So the fact it has run, what's happened is it's just not got an answer. Okay, hang on. Let's test this. Okay. Let's change this back to test data. And when we run it, now we get an output. Yeah, fantastic. Let's just move 366 and let's put it at the back here. And let's run that. Yeah, it doesn't work. So we do need to loop. I thought I was being clever here, but I really wasn't, was I? Okay, so we're going to luckily, because everything's stored in variables, this is going to be quite an easy fix. So we're going to say for j in range and we're going to go from I plus 1 to length of data minus 1. Okay, so this is going to go up to minus 2 because we don't want it to go all the way to the end because it's going to have 2 more in front of it, j. And we're going to say our second number is equal to integer of data j. So whatever j is, and j is going to start at 1 because I is going to start at 0, and j is going to be whatever I is plus 1. Oh, hold on to your hats. This is going to get weird. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to say for k. Oh, come on. Is there a better variable name than k? I don't think so. For k in range j plus 1 or I plus 2, depending on how fancy you're feeling. And the length, we're going to go up to the length of data minus 2. Okay, lovely. Fantastic. I was just thinking about maybe putting length of data into a variable, but actually let's just leave it. So we're going to pop that inside here. I'm going to remember all my colons because I'm terrible at them. Okay, so, okay, let's pop that up here. So we've got our first number, our second number, we've got our third number. And now what this is going to do, let's kind of go through what the problem was here. So our problem was that we were doing 979, add 675, add 1456. And then we were doing 675, add 1456, add 299. And then we were doing 1456, add 299, add 1721. And then we were doing 299, add 1721, add 366. And that was it. But you'll notice we never got to try other combinations. Like we never did 979, add 1721, add 366. We never did 675, add 171, add 1721, add like 299. Because we were only ever doing 3 consecutive numbers together. But what we actually need to do is we're going to start at 979. That's going to be our I value, our first number. Our second number is going to be 675. And then our third number is going to go through the loop. So it's going to go from this one, and then it's going to go to this one. And these two are going to still remain the same. This is still going to be where I is. This is still going to be where the second number is. And then the third number is going to be this one. Then it's going to be this one. Then it's going to be this one. And then I is going to come up 1. And so is j. So they're going to come to these ones. And then k is going to go through these 3 numbers. And in this way, we're going to test all of the numbers together. Okay. Normally, the first day's challenge is a little bit more. It's a little less hardcore. Or maybe I'm just explaining this in a manic way. So let's push this into our k loop. Lovely. So Record It is having a little bit of an issue with some formatting here, but that's okay. So all this logic is sound. This all stays the same. We're just thinking about how we're getting our third, second, and first numbers, and we've just changed the way we're doing that. Now, last thing we need to do, if I say break here, that's going to break this k loop, but it's not going to break this j loop or this I loop. So we need to go back and get our found variable, and we're going to say found is false with a capital F. And down here, when we break out of k, we're going to say if found, we're going to break. Oh no, we can return. We don't have to break at all because this is a function now. Instead of breaking, we can return. And what return does is it just ends the function. And if that happens midway through a loop, that's fine. So we will just return our product. So we could then use that later on in a program if we really wanted to. We could just leave it at return because we're just printing the product anyway, but hey ho. So I think we solved it now. So you'll recall that before I did all of that, I moved 366 down here, or I moved something down here in our test data, and our program didn't run. We didn't get the correct output from our test data. But now if I hit run, nothing happens because I've balked the programming. Let's try and fix that. So line 34, bosh. Okay, it's not happy with the indentation here. So for k in range, j plus 1. Indentation error, unexpected indent. Okay, so this is too, okay, I pushed that in too much. I got too excited with my indents. Let's bring this back a little bit. Okay, fantastic. So now I can run this, and hopefully all my syntax, apart from that, is fine. Oh no, it's still not working. Why not? Why are you not working? So we're doing this one, and then we're trying all of these. And then we're doing this one, and we're trying all of these. But we're not trying this one, but then do we need to? We'd have done that one there anyway. Have I got my, no, did I get my loop right? No, I'm an idiot. K in range, I did -2. So I is -2 because we want to keep I 2 away from the end of the array. So I gets to here and then stops, okay? J is -1 because we want J to get 1 away from the end of the loop. So we want it to go all the way up to here and stop here. K, -2, what was I thinking? It's getting to here, and it's just like, yep, job done. No. We want it to go all the way up to the length of the array. I tell you. Okay. Oh, if only the computer wasn't so good at following the instructions that I give it, it'd be so much easier. Okay, let's try this again. It's still not working. Oh no. J plus 1. I plus 1. J plus 1. The length of data. Third number is equal to I plus 2. No. See, I've copied and pasted, and this has been a world of pain because I didn't correct everything. So look, you'll notice here, I in range, first number equals data I. J in range, second number equals data J. K in range, third number equals data, and then I had like I plus 1 or something. No, data K. Okay. Okay, I'm there. I'm feeling positive. Here we go. So, part 2, we're about to solve it with our test data. And see, the benefit of having this test data here is that we can really think about how this is working, and we can like just test our thing here and just have this nice little array. If I didn't have this in the code, if this was just gone, then I just have this puzzle data, and it's just not very visual. It's there, but it's only there when we run it, and so it's nice to have a little thing to test our program with. So run this test data, and bam! Yes! I'm so happy. Okay, we have done it, and it has pulled out those 2 numbers. Even though I changed the position of 366, it is now working and is actually running. One thing that would be quite nice if at the end of this function, after all is said and done, so on that line there, I come down here and I could print nothing found, so that we at least know that the function actually ran. So if I was to maybe if I change this to like 365 instead rather than 366, I can press run and then it just says nothing found. So I know that the function's run. But if I change it to 366, then it will print out these. So here we go. Let's change test data to puzzle data and solve part 2 of day 1. Here we go. Let's run this. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, it had to grind there. Did you see that? The first one with the test data is like instant. This one, it had to take a little second there. That was, I had to do a bit of thinking. So we've got our 3 numbers, and they add up to 2020 apparently. 1442, 396, and 182. Now, if I was asked to do that just by looking through this list of numbers, I think that would have taken me quite a while. There are a lot of numbers in here, a lot of very similar numbers. It would have probably driven me absolutely insane. But we wrote a little program eventually, and we were able to get this. And now we've got this product here of, what have we got? 103,927,824. If it will let me, no, it won't let me copy that. Let's do that. Copy. This is where dreams come true. This box. Oh, also, if you're watching this and you're thinking, oh, Mr. Johnson solved this, so I can just put in his number. They give you different puzzle inputs. So the idea isn't that you should that you have a specific answer. The idea is that your program can spit out an answer regardless of what your puzzle input is, if that makes sense. So this input might not work for you because you might have a different puzzle input. You could have the same, I think. I think there are like some that are the same, but it's quite likely that you'd have a different puzzle input. So don't be trying to cheat. Not that anyone's going to be watching this and trying to cheat. Let's press submit and let's see if life truly is worth living. Yes, it is! I have the second gold star. I'm so happy. I've completed day one. I can share this. I can share it on Twitter or something called Mastodon. I'm not really sure what that is. I'm not that. I'm just, you know, I don't think Twitter's enough. I'm so happy that actually Twitter would be it's not enough. So let's return to our advent calendar. And we can see here that this line is now in a little bit of color compared to what it was. And we've got these lovely 2 stars here next to day 1. And day 2 is only 9 hours and 10 minutes away from being released. So I'm going to end it there. Thank you for watching. If you have, if you've enjoyed this, please do try and follow along and code along and start like creating your own solutions and kind of thinking about how this might work. And kind of getting to grips with loops and things like that. It's a bit confusing. We can see there I've got a lovely 2 stars next to my name. How fancy is that? And so hopefully we can get this to a reasonable level of stars before the end of the month. If I get past day 10, I will be very impressed. But I'm going to end it there. Thank you very much for watching. And this has been my first ever stream. So what a day to be alive.